Hi, hello, and welcome to That Sounds Gay, a podcast for queer people by a homosexual with a lot of opinions. My name is Jer, and I will be your podcast host for a short period of time. Last week, I was very, very, very ill, and I needed my partner to take over for the intro, and it was just a really quick one and done. Hi, here we are. Here's your thing. Have a nice day. Enjoy your girl dinner. I'm feeling a little bit better. As you can tell, my voice is still kind of out, but you know what? We're live, laugh, loving, and we're doing our best. Before we get into this week's podcast episode, which I'm excited for as always, let's talk really quick polyamory. Because I have done podcasts in the past about it, and I will be the first to admit, I don't know if I was as eloquent as I probably could have been, but something not too terribly recently came up, and it was suggested that maybe I should talk about this as an intro because I had a lot of thoughts that I had sort of just word vomited onto Twitter, and I'm the type of person that can just talk. Like, I can just speak and say words and just go. I've never had a problem with talking and just getting things out. But what happens sometimes is that I talk in circles because I grew up with this idea that what I had to say was not important. I grew up in the 90s where kids were seen, not heard. I was sort of looked at like mature for my age, someone who was able to converse with the adults in the room and be able to keep conversation with them and not bore them. But I also think that mature for my age sometimes meant that I was easily manipulated into just blindly following what people said. And sometimes that was, don't talk, adults are speaking. And I distinctly remember that being told to me sometimes. Adults are talking, sit and listen or go to the other room. And I've always been the type of person that's been interrupted. If I started talking, people always interrupted over what I had to say. So as an adult, I've had to really balance me in my conversation skills. How do I fit into the world knowing that I grew up with this idea that what I had to say didn't matter? So when I talk, I sort of just babble because nobody's listening anyway. I can't always get ahead of where my thoughts are going. And also, how do I balance both of these things and not talk over other people and perpetuate that same scenario that happened to me a lot as a kid that I hated, that people always were talking over me, and even into my young adulthood, people did that. And so I think that may have happened during the last polyamory video, as I think I just talked in too many circles, but I want to try and be as clear and eloquent as possible this time around and keep it brief because there's this question. Why is it that there are no gay people that want to be monogamous anymore? That is the eternal youth question that I see so many young people asking. I see so many mid-30s people asking. And I see even some people that are even older than 30 asking that question. Why does nobody want to be monogamous anymore? There's conversations to be had about relationships. There's conversations to be had about how difficult life is right now for people and how most people just are looking for a good time. They're not really looking for a relationship because that's hard work. But the people that are looking for relationships are out there. There are plenty of monogamous people. It just seems like there are more polyamorous people in the world, more people that have a lot of love to give because you're looking for it. One, when you see one person that's in a relationship that is maybe looking for sex or another relationship with someone else, it's easy to then start to see it everywhere. It's like if I tell you, don't think about a white sedan, As soon as you get on the road, you're going to see white cars everywhere and you're going to see sedans everywhere. And the first thing you're going to think is, why are there so many sedans all over the place? But beyond that, why do we see polyamory so often in the queer community? And why is it that these people don't really seem to care? And by those people, I'm also referring to myself. And by care, I mean, why don't we care about monogamy? Well, polyamory is direct opposition to heteronormativity. And let's break down what that word is, because it seems big and scary and it seems like a buzzword that the liberals are always using. Heteronormativity is what is expected of us as a society. That you are born male or female. You get into a relationship with the opposite sex. The two of you go and get your jobs and you make your money to have children and get a house and do the 9 to 5 gig and take care of your children and live your whole life as male-female couple doing family stuff. That's the expectation. That is societal heteronormativity. And there are lots of gays who and lesbian people that follow heteronormativity. They want and desire the opportunity to wife someone up, to go and have children and do the expected thing. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I want to make that very clear. If you are a queer person who desires heteronormativity, there's nothing wrong with you. If anybody tells you differently, you're not a class traitor or something if you really desire that. I would ask you to question, why is it that I want to follow the societal norm when you could do literally anything else? And that's what happens a lot of the time with queer people who have bucked heteronormativity so hard, because heteronormativity also encourages you to only have one partner. Anything outside of that is cheating. But when you reject the idea that I have to live my life as male or female and get with someone who presents differently, only stick with one person forever, when you completely separate from that, you find yourself in a position where you realize that those rules are made up. Those rules are not applicable to you as a gay person. You could follow in the masc femme route, find someone, if you identify more masculine, and find someone who's a little more feminine, balance each other out and follow into those norms. Or you could not, and you could just do whatever you want, and you don't have to worry about the norms. So then you start breaking down, well, why do I have this desire to be in a single person relationship? Why do I believe that that is the correct route of life? Because that often is where there becomes some moral superiority of people who are into monogamy, believe that they are better than people who are polyamorous and desire multiple relationships, or have a lot of love to give, or just want to have an open relationship and have sex with other people. There's a superiority complex that happens there because those people have been ingrained so hard by society that tells them you must only be with one person, never ever break apart or do anything outside of that, because that's cheating. That is very distinct heteronormativity. And there are plenty of queer people who have just said, I don't need that. That rule does not matter for me. It doesn't have to. Why would it? I'm already doing something that is so different from the expectation. Why not pull back even farther and live as my true, authentic self that doesn't just want to experience one type of love, when I could experience multiple types of love? I can experience multiple different physical connections with people, multiple sexual connections with people. Those things are not mutually exclusive when it comes to your relationship style and your morals. And I think we really need to, especially as queer people, start to dissect that your morality and your moral compass are different things than certain elements of your life, and especially when it comes to relationships. Why is it, if you believe that monogamy is the only way, and that if you think I'm better than polyamorous people, if that is in your brain, you have to dissect why that is. Is it because you genuinely, truly, with your whole heart, believe that no one's ever influenced you to think that? Or is it because society has conditioned you over your entire life to believe that the correct way of living is X, Y, together forever, no separation of the two? You're there until death. And there's, again, nothing wrong with that. And there are plenty of polyamorous people who have a primary and stick with that primary until the end, and then they'll just have a secondary or a third, or they'll have partners that rotate in and out throughout their entire life. But they still manage to make it work with one person, because morality, again, is subjective, and your moral compass is not mutually exclusive with how you choose to express yourself romantically or sexually, physically, in any way with another human being. So that idea, why do we see it so often in the queer culture, I think really does come from us as queer people realizing that those rules are all fake. The rules are made up. Almost nothing in this life is real. Same with gender expression. That's why there are so many gay people that are comfortable with all pronouns. They don't care if you refer to them as male or female, because it doesn't matter. It's all silly. It's a joke that we've decided that man looks like this, woman looks like this, and you can't deviate between those two. That's why you see queer people that paint their nails, because the rules that mask people can't paint their nails is fake. It's just some silly society thing that someone decided and put into our patriarchal, heteronormative society that encourages you to be masculine or feminine, and that is the path, right? So all of that to say, we see it so often because of that. Many of us realize that we get to just be fabulous, and we are free from these chains that bind so many people to this world that don't allow them to ever explore outside their boxes, never allowing themselves to figure out who their real selves are, what they really want, what they really want to pursue, what their real goals and aspirations are. They're just doing what's expected of them. Whether that be in relationships, whether that be at work, whether that be with family or friends. There are so many expectations we have that sit on our shoulders that we've been taught is the right way to do life. But that it does not necessarily mean that is your path. And if you explore all of this and you look and you think, all right, I've broken it down. Yes, I've been taught that monogamy is the way to go, and that is what I need to do with my life. And I've dissected that, and I've realized I'm the type of person that only has enough love for one person. I would get too jealous otherwise. That's totally okay for you. That is 100% okay. But what it doesn't make is you better than someone who chooses to live their life different. In the same way that choosing to go by he, him pronouns or she, her pronouns does not make you better than someone who wants to go by they, them, or any other alt pronoun that exists. That superiority we really need to start leveling out and be better as a community to uplift each other, because as queer people, we're trying to just make it through this life in the same way that the heterosexual, heteronormative people are trying to do. But we have way more coming at us, way more targeted hate. And the infighting, we gotta stop. We gotta stop pretending that because you're following expectations, you're better than the queer people who aren't doing that. The they thems with the blue hair that work at the library and the painted what are those called, coffin style nails and a septum piercing, who wear natural deodorant, right? Like, you are not better than those they thems because you've chosen to live to expectations. And the people that have decided that they don't want to follow societal expectations are also not better than the people who have chosen to follow those societal expectations. There's nothing wrong with order and rules and saying, okay, this is what everybody expects, so I'm going to do it. Some people need that structure in their life because too much unstructure feels chaotic. So nobody is better than anybody else. And we need to really start to understand why people choose to live their life a certain way and just stay in our own fucking lane. Because staying in your lane is what? Free. So, with that in mind, let's get into the podcast episode. Remember to stay fruity. And for those of you who are listening on YouTube, if you want to check out my podcast, it is below. You can check that out in the links down there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.